They laughed at me at my own son's wedding. The boy I raised, the man I sacrificed everything for, told an entire room I was nothing but a burden. I sat there, my hands shaking, my heart breaking, until the bride's father stood up and revealed the truth my son never wanted anyone to hear. That day, I lost my son, but I regained my dignity. My name is Frank Miller, I'm 67 years old, and I live in a small town in Ohio. I'm a retired veteran and, for most of my life, I own a little hardware store right on Main Street. These days, my mornings are simple: black coffee, the old country station playing low on the radio, and a glance at the faded photograph of my late wife, Susan. That photo reminds me of everything I fought to protect. I worked hard, I lived honest, and I believed family always came first. I thought my son believed that too, but I was wrong. After Susan passed, it was just me and my boy, David. He was only 12 at the time, and I promised her on her deathbed that I'd raise him right. I worked 2 jobs, kept food on the table, and when he got into college, I sold my hardware store at a loss just to pay his tuition. I went without so he could have more. But as David grew older, he grew distant. He didn't want to be seen with me in public, said I dressed too old and talked like I was from another time. I told myself it was just youth talking, but deep down, it hurt. When he got engaged to Emily, I was hopeful. She seemed sweet, respectful, but little things slipped. I overheard her say once, "Your dad means well, but he's out of touch." David laughed. I laughed too. On the outside. Inside, it was another cut. At the rehearsal dinner, I tried to stand up and offer a toast. David stopped me, in front of everyone. He chuckled and said, "Dad, don't embarrass yourself trying to make speeches. Just enjoy your food." Laughter echoed across the tables. I forced a smile, but my hands trembled around the glass. I thought that was humiliation, but the wedding day showed me real heartbreak. The church was beautiful, the reception grand, bigger than anything I'd ever been part of, but while families laughed and danced, I sat alone at the edge of the hall. Nobody came near me. When I finally gathered courage to raise my glass, my son cut me off again. "Dad, you've done enough. This is my day." Guests laughed nervously. Then came the dagger. "Don't expect much of a gift from him. He's on a fixed income, after all." The room chuckled. My face burned hot. A lifetime of sacrifice, reduced to a cruel punchline. I lowered my glass. My chest ached in a way I can't describe. I wanted to walk out, but I couldn't. Not yet. It was then I noticed Richard, Emily's father, watching me closely, anger flashing in his eyes. He saw what others didn't. Later, away from the music and chatter, Richard approached me. "Frank," he said quietly, "you don't look right. What's going on?" I shook my head, tried to wave it off, but Richard pressed, and for the first time in years, I told someone the truth: how I sold my store to pay for David's education, how I gave him the savings I had left so he could buy his first car, how every step of his life had been carried on my back. Richard listened in silence, his jaw tightening. I didn't ask for pity. I only wanted someone to know I wasn't the fool my son painted me to be. When we parted, I handed him a worn envelope. Inside were receipts, records, and a letter Susan once wrote about my promise to care for David. Richard took it with a nod. "Let me handle this." The night wore on. David strutted around like a king, laughing, bragging about his hard work and independence. He told guests how he built everything himself, how he never leaned on anyone. Each word was a knife in my back. But I noticed Richard. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't clapping, he was pacing near the stage, holding that envelope I'd given him. Guests whispered, sensing something brewing. David noticed too. His smile faltered as he glanced nervously at Emily's father. He pulled out his phone, sent hurried texts. I watched him fidget, sweat beading at his brow. For the first time that day, my son looked unsure of himself. Then came the speeches. Emily's maid of honor spoke. The best man followed. Finally, Richard took the microphone. He cleared his throat, voice booming through the hall. "Tonight, I've heard a lot about independence, about building a life from scratch. But before we go any further, I think the truth deserves to be heard. The room stilled. Richard held up the envelope. "This man right here, Frank Miller, is the reason David stands before you. He sold his livelihood, emptied his savings, and sacrificed everything for his son, and yet, tonight, I've watched that same son humiliate him." Gasps filled the air. David's face drained of color. Emily covered her mouth, eyes wide with betrayal. Richard's voice hardened. "A man who dishonors his father doesn't deserve to be called one." The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but applause, and for the first time that day. I lifted my head high. David couldn't recover. Guests turned their backs. Emily stormed out, tears staining her gown. The marriage was fractured before it began. As for me, I walked out quietly, not bitter, not broken, but free. That night, I sat on my porch, crickets chirping, the flag swaying in the summer breeze. I thought about Susan. I hoped she saw. I realized then, age doesn't make you weaker, it makes you wiser. The truth may take time, but it always rises to the surface. So if you're ever underestimated, if you're ever told you're too old, remember this: dignity can't be taken, it can only be surrendered, and I didn't surrender mine. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.